Good afternoon. I am Senate Republican Leader Rob Ortt. I'm joined by my friend and colleague here in state government, Assembly Republican Leader Will Barclay, as well as several members of the New York State Senate Republican Conference and the New York State Assembly Republican Conference. Notably, Senator Steve Chan, who we will hear from momentarily, and Assemblyman Lester Chang. We're here to talk, I think you'll hear from the Assemblyman and the Senator, on a specific incident that occurred in their districts. But I think I wanted to speak more broadly because I think that district is that incident is really one of only several incidents that has occurred. And it's happening against the backdrop of a late budget. And one of the reasons the budget, if you believe my colleagues across the aisle, is late, is that they object with several of the governor's policy proposals, Article 7 language, one of which regards involuntary commitment, and specifically people who are not of sound mind because they suffer from severe mental incapacities to make decisions, even basic decisions around clothing, shelter, food. And of course, what happens, these folks are on the street, homeless. We see it all over New York City. We see it in other parts of the state. And I want to just start, before I highlight the incidents, I want to start by saying my first 4 years in this chamber, I was the chair of the Mental Health and Developmental Disabilities Committee in the Senate. And that's a position that I take a great deal of honor that I had the pleasure and the privilege to serve in that role. And I learned a great deal about both those two committees, the community, the developmental disability community and the mental health community. And I want to say that I am not here, nor should anyone take it, that we are here to demonize those who have mental health issues. There are real New Yorkers who suffer from significant mental health issues, and most of them, because of policies here, a long history of policies, most of them are more likely to be the victims of violence than the perpetrators of. But it goes to the point. Several years, the state of New York, under the previous governor, who wants to be the next mayor, and this governor, we have moved in a deinstitutionalized setting. We have pushed people out of getting services they need into the community to get the services there. But we know they're not getting the services there. We have turned our backs on the mental health system here in New York. We have let it atrophy, decay, dismantled, whatever term you want to use. And when we talk about the increases in crime and the increases in instances of crime, a lot of that, homelessness, a lot of that can be traced back to mental health and the lack of supports and the idea that even somebody who is suffering from schizophrenia, from significant mental health disorders, are on the street, not getting the service they need, where they will either be the victims of violence or they will perpetrate violence. They will more likely come into contact with a police officer than a mental health professional. And you can ask any police officer in the state. They are as much mental health counselors today or have to learn to identify mental health issues because they are far more likely to come into contact with someone suffering a mental health breakdown than a mental health professional. And that's just bad. That is, in my view, it's a credit to the police officers who are able to de-escalate those situations, but more often than not, that is going to result in a bad outcome or a less than desirable outcome because you're set up to fail in that situation. And you could see what happened over the weekend in Brooklyn. There was a heinous attack on 4 children by a family member who has since been revealed that he's been hospitalized for schizophrenia. Days later, there was a woman who was attacked with a broken bottle by a perpetrator with a long rap sheet who had previously, it's been reported, had 36 mental health hearings, but was back on the street instead of getting the help that he clearly needed. I don't know that the governor's proposal is some silver bullet. I'm going to say it's probably not. I once sponsored a bill that would kind of do the same thing she wanted to do, because I could see this years ago, that there was clearly a problem with people suffering from significant mental health, that they were not of Of course they can't make the determination that I need help. And we owe it to them and other people in their life around them to make sure they get the help they need. And we need to be realistic. We need to be realistic about the community we're talking about. If someone is suffering from significant schizophrenia, it is unlikely that they are going to be able to be of the mindset that they need the help they need, even though they do. So we can either let more people be victimized, and we're lucky that no one died in these scenarios. But every day, I know police officers, we used to have, I don't know if we still do, we used to fund crisis intervention training, which was training police, law enforcement, so they could identify maybe if somebody was having a mental health breakdown and de-escalate that situation or maybe treat it a little differently than they otherwise would have. But again, cops have to make split-second decisions. Someone's waving a meat cleaver or a machete. There's not a lot of time always to, have a Dr. Phil conversation. And so what happens? Someone gets hurt that shouldn't have. On top of the kids or the woman. I don't want to see someone who has schizophrenia get shot. I don't want to see someone with significant mental health disorders end up in jail instead of getting the services they need somewhere else, or living under a bridge when they should be somewhere else. But we have to get real about the challenges of mental health. And it's not just in the community, and that's great. Everyone with mental health can just live amongst us. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. That's just not always the case. I wish it were. There are people who can, and that's great. And we should make sure that there's a path for that. But for people with 36 mental health hearings to be roaming around, slicing a person's face with a glass bottle or the shard of a glass bottle is a failure of New York's mental health infrastructure and policy. And when we talk about crime and quality of life, you cannot divorce. And here we are, no budget, and one of the reasons is because we just can't be real about the need to improve the mental health system and to allow for people who need help to get it, to get that help they need. And I don't want to wait for 4 more kids to be attacked or worse, or a woman to be attacked or worse, or, because I can promise you this, someone who has mental health, who's living on the street, when they get maybe attacked or killed, a lot of times you won't even read about it. Because no one knows who that person is. It's just another statistic. And we don't even have it in the newspaper. There's not even a press conference to talk about it because it's like it never happened. And that's just as much of a shame, in my view. You are doing these individuals no service by letting them out there to either be victimized or victimize. And so, disappointing, but I don't agree on a lot of what Governor Hochul does. And she knows that. I tell her when I see her. We agree on a football team generally. That's like the one thing we unify around. But on this, because of my history chairing that committee, I do agree that changes need to be made here. And this should be a common sense thing that most New Yorkers, I think, would agree on. And yet, here we are, no budget, because my colleagues across the aisle can't get their act together and just acknowledge what is readily apparent today, yesterday, and I think has been readily apparent for many years now. So with that, I want to call up, again, my partner, a partner in government, someone who I think leads his conference and his part of the chamber with a great deal of dignity and class, and that is Assemblyman Republican leader Will Barclay.
Thank you very much, Leader Ortt. I like that dignity and class. I don't get to hear that very often, so thanks for pointing that out. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to be brief because I want to hear from our speakers where the terrible tragedies happened in their districts. But yesterday we did a press conference on spending and taxes and affordability. And that issue is a big issue that we're trying to get out there and make sure the public knows what the three Dems in the room are doing or not doing in regarding that. And the Dems have made a complete mess of affordability in New York State. So here today, we're here to talk about public safety. And where do we stand on public safety? Here we are, another day, another attack, another lost week of inaction and dysfunction. And I ask any of you, anybody here in Albany, anybody in Albany, how many tragedies is it going to take before the Democrats stop doing these roadblocks and let us actually go forward with public policy to help public safety? Now, the leader mentioned we have a late budget. It's very important we have a late budget because of, the mask ban, the problems with discovery, and certainly this involuntary commitment issue. So we have a late budget, and that's not good for New Yorkers. But in reality, we also have a public safety crisis. And the fact that they refuse to act on that just goes to show. And these are the same, by the way, these are the same people who are willing to hold up the state budget. These are the same people that brought you bail reform. They brought you defund the police. Why in the world do we want to hold up the budget, get the budget done? We ought to get this done for public safety. In my mind, and Leader Ortt mentioned, this is a common sense proposal. I think these tragedies that happened in New York, down in New York City certainly show that. So I'm happy here to lend my voice to this and continue to push forward to make sure that hopefully this issue gets taken care of in this budget. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Senator Chang.
Thank you. I think the members of the media know me by now. I'm usually up here criticizing and calling people out. So it's not often that I stand up here and I applaud our governor. I applaud our governor for trying to include this involuntary commitment as a part of our budget. And I'll touch on more on that in a little bit. So everybody knows I'm a cop of 27 years, and a good 13 of those years I spent running around the streets. If I went to 200 workdays a year, which is about right, and I answered 10 radio runs a night, that comes out to about somewhere around in the vicinity of 20 to 25,000 radio runs that I personally responded to as a cop, as a supervisor, as an undercover, as a narcotics cop. 25,000 radio runs, and can you imagine how many thousands of those radio runs that I've encountered where somebody has a mental health problem? Sometimes, as Leader Ortt mentioned, sometimes I would have a couple of minutes to react, think of a plan, me and my partner or other units on scene. Sometimes I would have zero time to react. The second I get out of the car, I'm fighting. I'm on the ground. I'm on top of the car. So it's real, and it affects, every community and every member of our family, every friend we have in some way at some point. This past weekend on 84th Street, right in the middle of my community, now I still have a very intimate relationship with our police precincts over there that I've been running around with. I get a call at 10 o'clock in the morning, 10:30 in the morning, Steve, you better get over here, 84th Street. And I know people that live on that block, 5 families. I go over there, and what I see is a scene reminiscent of something that happened about 12 years ago, something that happened about 15 years ago. 12 years ago, a emotionally disturbed Asian male took a meat cleaver and killed his cousin's wife and her whole family. I don't know how many people. Her name was Chen Min Dong. I just committed that to my memory because I was the second in command of a small crime scene unit in Brooklyn at the time, and I actually worked that scene. Prior to that, there was a gentleman by the name of Eric. He is my friend Terry's nephew. He butchered his mother and father in Staten Island. I believe Senator Lanza remembers that job, and I was also at that scene. So in this past 1 week, we have seen headlines like a 15-year-old out in Long Island killing his grandmother and injuring his mother. We see another person stabbing her mother in Poughkeepsie. We see a unhinged man for no reason breaks a bottle and cuts a vibrant 25-year-old in the neck, and she's in critical condition. So we can agree that it's not normal. It's not normal for somebody to be so mad and just out of anger or out of something, breaks a bottle and just cuts the first person that he sees, or stabs his mother and father and butchers his whole family. So this past Saturday on 84th Street, we seen that again, and my office was there on scene, and we went to the hospital with the kids, with the children, and we saw the condition that they were in, and we've been in touch with their parents ever since. And it's very traumatizing. I can only imagine down the road what these kids are going to be thinking and feeling. So far, they have not spoken to anyone until this morning. My office was helping the family, acting as a liaison between the family and the DA's office and ACS in New York City. So, like Leader Ortt says, you know, expanding the involuntary commitment, is that going to work? We don't know. We don't know. But something needs to be done, and we can't not do anything about it. So we need these people to be able to, you know, we need the ability to make them take their medication, to not, the word is not incarcerate, but to keep them at a place where they cannot hurt themselves, where they cannot hurt others. And that's, you know, as a cop responding to these emotionally disturbed people job, we call it an EDP job, the first thing we ascertain is this person about to hurt himself or others? So if the answer is yes, we have to remove them, but remove them to where? So that is to be determined. You know, formally we moved them to the Bellevue Hospital psych ward, and a lot of times and Kings County Hospital in Brooklyn has a pretty good one too. I forgot the name of that building. I believe it's called the H building. Is that right, Vito? The H building in Kings County Hospital. Over there, they can stay for a few days, and where they'll, you know, get cleaned up and they take their medication and they come out, they'll be okay for a while. So we need to figure that out. So I implore our Senate and our Assembly leaders to address the issue instead of just ignoring it. Let's do something about it. I want to thank my friend, Assemblyman Lester Chang, that day. He was there with me on Saturday. And I would like to introduce Assemblyman Lester Chang from Brooklyn, New York.
Thank you, Stevens. Thank you, Senator Stevens. And thank you, Leader Ortt. Thank you, Leader Barclay, to hold this important press conference here. And my deepest gratitude to the NYPD 6-2 precinct and a 911 operator, because they received a 11-year-old girl in hiding in a closet, making that phone call. So you can imagine the 911 operator have to do. For this swift and courageous response to this horrific attack that occurred this past Sunday in Bensonhurst, in my neighborhood. The officer have to make a life and death decision that prevent further loss of life, and I extend my thanks to that NYPD officer. The tragedy also underscores the urgent need to continue addressing mental health in our communities. There is help for New Yorkers in this emotional distress, and for New York City, it's called NYC Well Help Hotline. That's 888 NYC Well. That's 1-888-692-9355, 7 days a week, 24/7. No one should suffer in mental health silence. No one should. The victims are, of course, they're Chinese, and they came from the Fujian province. That's mostly comprised of my community and Senator Chang's community. In particular, people came from China, immigrant from China. Mental health is not a very common way to ask, especially in generation of my age or older. It's a taboo. So, as a retired naval officer, 24 years, and an Afghan war veteran, I was diagnosed PTSD. So the VA helped me for 3 years be treated for mental health, as well as grief counseling. So I want to express this to the public, that there is no shame, especially my community, asking for mental health, because I received it and it helped me. So, and I hope that my Fujianese Family Association, which is the American New York Chinese Association, which is one of the largest Fujianese association, President Ray Wong, is ready to help these families. Because once these kids, the victims, once they come out of hospital, they have lifelong mental health need. There is no question about that. There's no enough insurance to take care of them, especially for mental health counseling. It only goes so far. So the Family Association is ready to help them financially and other resources as well. So I want to make that, explain that to the public as well. And that Sunday, as I visited a hospital, me and Steve visited a hospital, and we both saw the two young victims itself. You know, we didn't speak to them, but we spoke to the family member, and they were also in shock, and they were confused on what's happening on that. My office, as well as Steve's office, we follow up with the family members to make sure that they're okay. Because about a year and a half ago, in my district in Sunset Park, there was a hammer attack with two family roommates, and the husband killed another female family. So the perpetrator family has a wife, wasn't there, was in Maryland, and a young son, 8-year-old, witnessed. I personally helped that family because the other side of the family is being taken care of by the community, but the other side wasn't. So my office personally took care of that, gave them separate housing and relocate the school. So mental health is still a big issue itself, and I have to thank Governor Hochul regarding about this mental health. But we need to pass this itself. We need to pass this bill because people who are mentally in distress may not have the right mind, right logic of making a right decision. We need to have tools for the law enforcement or the mental health to make a decision on the spot to take these people out. And we used to have the previous governor close down mental health hospital, and we need to have something to come back again because we lost so many beds for that, and there's so many people out in the streets are living in an inhumane position. So I hope this press conference let the people know we need this bill to pass, and I have to thank Leader Barclay, Leader Ortt to push this. And our conference are stand ready for this. Thank you all.
Well, thank you very much, Assemblyman, and thank you, Senator Chan, and of course, Leader Barclay.